Undertale is, without a doubt, one of the best and most influential games of the 2010s. It utterly set the internet on fire. It opened up a million people's minds to the unique position that game design as a medium is in to make meta statements. It carried on the legacy of one of the best games of all time in a fantastic way, and it's never truly let its illusion break. For all the data mining, secret hunting, glitch exploiting, and restarting, Toby Fox, the game's creator, was one step ahead of the community the whole way. This is a game that famously remembers everything that you do, regardless of how many times you reset your save file. It's meta all the way to the core. It does the classic Earthbound thing of asking the player what their name is to speak to you directly in cutscenes. It talks about why players want to reset their games, even after a happy ending, why we play games pacifistically or violently when presented with the option, and it even encourages editing your save file to access a secret that can't be reached otherwise. So there's no denying that this game has plans much larger than its surface level narrative, but what are those plans? And here's the question that's been bothering me since the game's release. How deep is this game? Are its statements profound and meaningful? Just what is this game trying to say? Well, to get to the bottom of this, we'll have to start at the beginning. No, not there. We'll have to go back farther, to some of the most significant examples of branching narratives in early gaming. While I could go back further, let's start with I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. It's a game from 1995 that has a boatload of endings, some good, some bad. While the choices that lead to different endings can seem a bit arbitrary, they're there for a reason, so that the player can see the consequences to their actions and how they personally would affect the story. Multiple endings in games are designed to teach us as much about ourselves as they do their worlds. Do you guys remember your first playthrough of a genuine RPG, rife with narrative decisions to make, where you could truly play how you wanted to? Fallout, Planescape Torment, Tides of Numenera, Tyranny, or even games like The Walking Dead or The Wolf Among Us. Odds are, on your first playthrough, you probably tried to make decisions as you'd make them in real life, and make your player character a reflection of yourself. In return for that dedication, the stories teach you a bit about yourself by showing you how you would fare in the worlds that host them. Me telling my friends to go through life like they're going for the good ending doesn't come from nowhere. Anyways, that is, to me, the most powerful aspect of branching narratives. Well, behind all that magic, in every branching narrative ever told digitally is a series of flags, checkboxes, and numbers. I've briefly dabbled in making an RPG of my own. I would spend hours writing long, intricate scenes filled with complex character motivations and tons of decisions to make, and behind that glossy exterior was a simple set of flags. Loudly murdering a homeless man who was working as a barker while secretly trying to spread propaganda in favor of an incoming society that was going to annex the town was all boiled down to set flag barker status 0, set flag raider rep 1. Then, if you wanted the sheriff to chastise the player for their brash actions, it was as simple as if flag barker status 0, flag raider rep equals 1, print sheriff meeting dialogue 3. Well, if that game were ever finished, and if it went viral like Undertale did, then for the first couple of weeks, that exchange might be seen as natural, mysterious, and above all else personal to each player. However, after a while, players would replay the game over and over, searching for all the game's secrets, learning about it online, and eventually they would see this simple bit of programming as just that, simple programming. Players are entropy in action when it comes to branching narratives. They want to know exactly how many Centuri you have to kill before Caesar's legion starts attacking you on sight. They want to know exactly how many Freeside drifters you can execute before the NCR takes notice, and they want to know exactly what will happen based on which followers you take to meet Raffle Puzzlewell. They want to destroy the illusion of the games and dissect them to their cores. Well, where does this put a game creator who wants to make a branching narrative? It's a frustrating seat to be in, and I think that Undertale was, in part, born of that frustration. To know that no matter how emotionally connected a player might be to your story, after 2 or 3 playthroughs they'll see right through the illusion, and probably even be looking for external sources for more info, must be incredibly irritating. Well, with that irritation comes opportunity. And again, it's an opportunity that games are in an especially good position to take advantage of. Undertale leans into that irritation by encouraging us to look at that game from a meta perspective. And again, Toby was right there with us through the entire meta journey that we took with this game. First, it was a simple playthrough, without many full-on fourth wall breaks. Well, then once we quote-unquote finish the game, Flowey shuts it down and we reboot it, and we get this. The opening cutscene glitches out, something weird happens with our save file, and then we see Flowey destroy it. Then we get this nightmare fuel. This fight literally takes place over multiple reboots of the game. If we die, the game crashes, we reboot, and the fight continues from where it left off. This is all really damn cool, but what does it mean for the game? Well, it means that Undertale, and by extension Toby Fox, has gone beyond the game. Now our Steam library is a part of the game too, as is our save file. Pressing the play game button in Steam is part of the strategy to beat Flowey, and after this fight, if we choose to spare Flowey, as most players probably did, it tells us that we were still missing some stuff, and that we'll have to load our save or start a new playthrough to genuinely beat the game. Toby Fox knew that players would be messing with the timeline, loading an old save in order to get the true ending whether Flowey told us to or not, but by having Flowey tell us to do so, we're forced to recognize that we still aren't outsmarting the game. Loading your save multiple times in Fallout 3 in order to see both endings with one playthrough is us outsmarting the game, but thanks to Flowey essentially explaining the concept of save scumming to us, we're forced to acknowledge that we still haven't outsmarted the game. We beat the game, sure, but even after getting the true ending, the game still isn't finished. Well, now, the next logical step is to do that genocide playthrough that everyone was talking about. This requires that you farm random encounters until you've exhausted every single enemy in the game, and then doing the infamous Sans fight. The genocide run, combined with the true ending pacifist run, sort of reveals pretty much every bit of literal story in this game. After both endings, we understand that Flowey is Azrael, died and put into the body of a flower, and it has the ability to load its save and see what else it can do to this world, just like us. We learn that Kara is a sort of demon inside of Fritz, our player character, and represents the same sense of catharsis that we get when our stats go up as we kill. We learn that Sans is something of a Time Lord, which explains why he's able to teleport around and break the fourth wall. We get the briefest allusions to WD Gaster, which is all most players will ever get about him without cheating. So after getting or watching the 2.5 main endings, we were all so intrigued that we had to know more. This game is so full of secrets and teases that literally nothing is as it seems. One good place to start when trying to break a game would be to use a save editor to put your character in typically impossible scenarios. When you create a save file in Undertale, you're randomly assigned a fun value. Different fun values make different secrets appear over your playthrough. If you have a fun value of exactly 65, there's a 50% chance that you'll find yourself in this sound test room when going to this screen in Snowden. I would argue that most people who have seen this screen in-game probably reached it using a save editor, but regardless of that, you can listen to a couple incomplete loops of songs here, and when you select Gaster's theme, you can no longer change the track, and you just have to wait for the song to end. I won't go into what's up with WD Gaster quite yet, but it's tangentially relevant to what I'm getting at here, so we'll definitely be touching on that some. We aren't done using save manipulation. There are a whole bunch of rooms that are inaccessible during normal gameplay, and they've been documented quite thoroughly on the wiki. Almost all of them are just little test rooms that you'd find in most games. Quote-unquote levels designed to test animations, sound effects, game mechanics, and that sort of thing. These rooms apply a variable to the player known as dog-checked. When you try to access them, an annoying dog sprite appears over a black screen, and one of 2 dog-themed tunes starts playing. This game is one step of us yet again. However, there's also Room 264, aka Room Gaster. In here, we see a series of symbols appearing on the screen, and with each symbol that appears, a random 1/8 of a second or so from abc123a.og plays. These symbols are a pixelated version of the Wingdings font from Windows. The 2 skeleton characters in this game, Sans and Papyrus, have names that are based on the fonts they use in dialogue. Sans uses Comic Sans, and Papyrus uses, well, Papyrus. Well, when we see Wingdings here in Room 264, it's the only other time we see a unique font. This would be WD Gaster, Wingdings Gaster. When we translate this to a readable font, it reads, Entry number 17. Dark, darker, yet darker. The darkness keeps growing. The shadows cutting deeper. Photon readings negative. This next experiment seems very interesting. What do you two think? I'm not going to go too into detail on who WD Gaster is because the deepest parts of this game's lore aren't all that relevant. I had an absolutely crazy theory that was too insane to be true, so I decided to take a blast from the past and check out the game theorists. And MatPat's theory was actually the same as mine. I don't quite agree with all of his evidence, but I recommend checking out his 3-part video on WD Gaster if you want some more info. Link in the description. What's also relevant here is that when you go and listen to abc123a.og, the sound file that Gaster's voice lines are made from, you get this message.
Hello, have some respect and don't spoil the game.
It's impossible to have mysteries nowadays. Because of nosy people like you.
Please keep all of this between us.
If you post it online, I won't make any more secrets.
No one will be impressed.
It will be your fault.
This is a plea to the players who data mine the game to not share this stuff on the internet, and saying that data mining ruins the integrity of the experience. Definitely relevant to the frustration with the players that I was talking about, but it's also yet another gotcha moment from Toby Fox. As of V1.001, this sound was cut down to just play this. Toby is still messing with us even post-launch. When people data mine a program, they go in with the intent of finding out things that the creator never intended them to learn. But by having this sound file here, with a very intriguing file name that shows up at the top of an alphabetical list, Toby is showing that he knew that the player base would eventually start data mining, and in a way, this means that all of these files were intended to be seen by the players eventually. As always, this game is one step ahead of us. Now, back to Gaster. I'm not all that interested in his lore. What I'm more interested in is the reason for all of this cryptic storytelling. Let's say that Gaster does have a story, and Toby knows the truth behind it all. Why is it a secret, or possibly in code? Well, as with loading our saves, resetting our saves, data mining, and reinstalling, using a save editor to access more clues about Gaster is all part of the metagame. Toby messes with the casual players by showing that the game remembers what you've done even after resetting. He messes with the more seasoned players by showing that the game knows all about save scumming. He messes with the really dedicated players by showing that he's considered what the game will look like to a data miner. And he messes with the map-hats of the world with things like WD Gaster's cryptic storytelling. To someone like me, discovering secrets hidden by a developer is the second most exciting thing about a game like Undertale. Just like MapPat, myself and hundreds of thousands of like-minded fans racked their brains trying to figure out who Gaster was, how Sans fit into all this, where he and Papyrus came from, and all the other mysteries. We were all trying to outsmart the game, just as the data miners, the save editors, the save resetters, and the save scummers were. We're all queued up in a pyramid, each layer thinking that it's able to outsmart the game until the game shows us time and time again that we aren't. Well, we haven't reached the top of that pyramid yet. We're only at the penultimate chunk. I said that theorizing about the mysteries of the lore was the second most interesting part of games like this for me. Well, what's the most interesting part? It's what I've always done on this channel, analyzing the artistic intent behind those decisions. When I was crafting my analysis on 2001: A Space Odyssey, I first had to look at things from the perspective of a channel like Game Theory. I had to figure out exactly what I thought happened on a literal level, using a litany of subtle hints and clues. Once I had finally settled on a series of events that I thought was indisputable, I had my story, and it was time to think about what that story meant. Well, that's where we reached the top of the pyramid. 2001: A Space Odyssey, to me, was a warning about us gravitating towards using art to evolve art, rather than using art to evolve ourselves as it was originally created for. Well, what's the deeper meaning to Undertale? It's proven that it was one step ahead of the save scummers, the save resetters, the save editors, the data miners, and the game theorists. Is it one step ahead of us poetic analysts too? Probably, but let's find out. I've got a weird taste in my mouth, so I should note now that I'm in no way saying my channel is superior to MapPats or anything like that. I'm just saying that an analysis like mine has to come after the kind of analyses that you find on his channel. I literally can't do what I do here unless I first do something like what MapPat does. We're both just machines in the factory of understanding art. So anyways, where do we even start with a game like this? Well, I already did start, but to give my thesis its statement, I think Undertale is about the frustration a creator feels, knowing their work will be scrutinized, picked apart, and relatedly devalued, and how that creator overcame that frustration by leaning into it and encouraging it. So, as I said, I've already started the essay, and because this game is weird, how well the game caps off that message will be related to how smoothly I finish the essay. If I manage to wrap my head around this, and articulate it perfectly, then the game is no longer one step ahead of its players, and if I fail to do so, then the game achieves its goals perfectly from the bottom of the pyramid all the way up to the top, at least if I'm right about those goals. So, in short, the better the game is at finishing off what I think its goals were, the worse this video will be. It stumped everybody from the bottom to the top, but will it stump me, the person who's going to try to look at everything we've learned about the game and explain what it all meant? Well, whether the game accomplishes its goals or not is completely nebulous to you and I. Whether or not this work holds up to my scrutiny is really only for Toby Fox to know. So, Toby, if you somehow pick this out of the thousands of videos on this game, keep up with the pace and don't tell me how I do. I don't think this game lacks a deeper meaning. I mean, it clearly does. It's about a game creator's frustration with the inevitable decay of all works in their medium. There's a reason our character looks so utterly bored for the entirety of the game. It's because the game is working under the assumption that we've seen it all a few times before, and we're bored with it. Flowey grew bored with its ability to reset the timeline and do things differently, just as we all did a few years ago when replaying this game was practically a daily routine. So there definitely is a deeper meaning at play. Toby didn't just allude to one to mess with people like me. The real question I'm stuck with is whether or not Toby has me fooled too. Is Toby one tier above me on the pyramid? Is the fact that I still don't know whether or not I'm right proof that Toby still has me beat? I mean, going back down to more concrete evidence from the game, it's clear that Annoying Dog is Toby's insert for himself in this world. The game remarks that Annoying Dog still has to patch out a couple holes, but that he's very slow at it because he's a dog. He's undermining himself, saying he's too slow to patch out the issues with the game, and that he's an annoying dog. So, am I completely wrong and all these fourth wall breaks are just gags and ways of creating some meta horror? My analysis of this game is a paradox. I literally can't be right and I can't be wrong. If I'm wrong, then Toby and the game are doing exactly what I thought they were doing, and if I'm right, then this game is doing more than I'm able to comprehend. Toby has all other demographics of his player base under his thumb. Is this what it feels like to be under his thumb too? Sitting here, my head spinning, thinking about save modification, the wrong number song, interdimensional ghosts, stupid skeleton puns, the many worlds theory, dog marriage, the very reason I play and analyze video games at all? And at the center of it all sits this annoying dog.